Welcome back to the channel. Thanks for stopping by the shop. Today, we've got drive shafts on the table. We've got to connect the 4L80 to the original 10 bolt in the OBS build. So here's my plan. We're going to see if we can make it work. So we got the 88 to 98 shaft, the 99 to 06 shaft out of the truck that the motor and transmission come out of. The main difference and the part I have to make work is the 4L8. I need this 4L80 yoke. This little 700R4 4L60 yoke's way too small. I need to get these U-joints out so I can measure them. By the looks of it, I'm thinking this is either a 1310, might be a 1330, but I think, yeah, this is a 1310 because it's narrower. So I think this is a 1310, that's a 1350. A little fun fact, the 1330, which is in between these, has the same size caps as a 1310, but it's got the same size width as a 1350. So what I'm going to have to do, if that is the case, that's how it measures out, then I need to get a conversion U-joint that's 1310 on one side, 1350 on the other, so that it will fit the drive shaft and it'll fit this yoke. I've done that in the past on some other projects. I've had pretty good luck. I'm hoping that's all we have to do because this drive shaft is pretty much the exact same length. You can see this was about normal ride area with the original transmission. I think it's going to sit about right here based on some measurements that I've already taken. So that's what I'm going to try to do. That would be awesome if it's as easy as that, because I don't have to make a drive shaft. The first thing that's going to go when I get this truck back up and running is that factory 10 bolt, and I'm probably going to swap in a 9-inch or something else, and I'm sure I'll have to do some drive shaft modification at that point, so I really don't want to do it twice. All right, so real quick, tell this one has the clips in there, locking clips, keep the U-joints in. This one doesn't have clips, inside or outside. You see these little knobs sticking up, little tits sticking up? It's plastic, so they actually infuse plastic into that U-joint, and when it hardens, it basically glues itself in there. The only way to get that out is to just melt it away. I'm honestly surprised this one is not like that, because almost all the GM aluminum drive shafts I've seen are actually glued in, and typically these have the C-clips. So it's kind of interesting. Now the fun part. Be careful, that thing will start shooting plastic straight out at you. There goes to the other side there. You can see it actually lifted the cap out. Rinse and repeat. Sure, that's terrible for the environment. Smells terrible. Just like burning plastic. Ooh. You definitely don't want to be downstream of where the plastic comes out of the hole, because it does hurt when it gets on your skin. I learned that the hard way. Guess that one's not going to pop out. And you can usually take a hammer and whack it out of there. Definitely don't want to try to grab that, obviously. There goes all the rollers. We can pick that up later. It's not always the best idea to get it quite that hot. I usually melt one, let it sit, but I'm not going to be using that yoke, so I will let this sit a little bit and cool off so that I can knock that out without bending the ears of the drive shaft. Just a little toasty. Okay, I might have got it too hot. Alright, next thing we gotta do is get this one apart while that one cools down. It's kind of rusty, so we're gonna spray a little blaster in there. That yoke looks terrible. It's been sitting in the bed of the other truck for a couple years, but we can clean it up. Not that big a deal. One thing I like to do is get you a socket that fits that. If you'll whack right on top of that snap ring, it'll push it out of that lip just enough and help kind of free it. Sometimes you get a stubborn one and you just gotta whack your needle nose. These work great because you're kind of flat on the end. Sometimes needle nose like to slip off. You always want to hit there. You don't want to hit down here, and you don't want to hit right there and mushroom the edge of that thing. Trust me, done that before. Doesn't end well. What you'll do is you'll miss and you'll split the edge of that open, and then you're not getting your U-joint out, at least that direction. You got to come in there and torch the U-joint in half, and it gets real messy and ugly and it ain't no fun. Yeah, you can use a bigger hammer, but I don't know, especially on the aluminum ones. I prefer to use a little bit lighter of a hammer and don't run the risk of bending anything. moving. All right, we're gonna see if we can get some of this rust off of this yoke. I'm gonna try one of these stripping pads. I think it'll work all right. As soon as I get the metal splinter out of my finger. That looks pretty good. There's some lube down in here. Let that soak. .049. .118. .118. That's a weird number. That's 1 1/16, which is 1310 or 1330. .69. So that's a 1330. It's kind of crazy. The OBS one is, whoo, that's still hot. That was dumb. I think we're gonna have to ask Google this one. Let's definitely smaller. Nope, that's the same size. What the hell? It's 1.125". These are 1.16". That is strange. There's the cap off the axle side. 1.125" OD. The 06 U joint. The 1.16" OD. That fits on the ID. So strange. See what O'Reilly says. 1.16". That's not right. Can y'all see that? Automatic, standard cab. Look at that, 1.125. Rear drive shaft at transmission. Non-greasable, we don't want that. Looks like it might work. Nope, that's a 1350, 1 3/16. This is kind of crazy. Then I might have to do some hunting on Google. Got to find a conversion joint. I have a feeling I'm not going to find a conversion joint, but I don't know. Alright, well, I think that's going to be it for today. Like I said, I need to do a little Googling, see if I can't figure out what kind of conversion shaft I can get, if that's even possible with this weird combination, which is typically my luck. So I'll check back in with you tomorrow. Alright, so next day, quick little trip down to Summit, get the proper U-joints. Learned something new yesterday trying to figure this out. These are not 1330s, they're not 1310s. They are General Motors 3R, also known as Mechanics 3, and American Axle Manufacturing AAM 1344. So GM must have had a Ford engineer on staff back in the early 90s, and they said we need to make our own U-joint, unlike any other. I guess that's what they did. Thankfully, it's actually easier to find the conversion from 1344 to 1330 or 1350. So I believe this 512X is the conversion one. Yep, so it's got the outer lock caps for the 1330. And then because we're not going to use the glue, we're switching to the inner locking cap. So that width should match that. And that width should match there. Make sure you don't drop the caps and the needle bearings come out. We're okay on that one. And then we have a full 1344 to go on the axle side. But before we do that, we need to make sure all this plastic is out of there, otherwise it's going to fight us. Just going to heat it up a little bit. And something I always like to do when I change U-joints is a little bit of emery cloth, a little bit of fine sandpaper, this 240 grit. And just kind of clean up that bore, get some of the rust and the junk out that might be in the way. One little burr will fight you the whole way to get the new cap in there, and ain't no fun. We don't need that one anymore. Clean this up a little bit. I'm not sure if you can really see it there, but there's a little burr. It might have got whacked with a hammer at some point, like somebody's changed it out. I don't think I did that yesterday. It's on both sides. It's rusty in there, so we're gonna clean that up a little bit. Basically, you don't want anything that's going to catch your finger in there. And I prefer to use the drill versus the air grinder, just because the air grinder is a little too fast and you don't really want to take away any extra material. You just want to get that one or two spots knocked down. Okay, I bought the greasable ones because I think the non-greasable ones are stupid. You want to make sure you'll be able to get to this when you put it all together. I like to put it towards the drive shaft. What I also like to do is I'm going to hammer this in kind of like we hammered them out. I like to take whatever caps I'm not using and put on a different table or another surface from where you're hammering. That way you don't run the risk of knocking these off onto the ground. You lose your needle bearings, and then you're trying to put dirty needle bearings back in, and it's just a mess. You just set them off to another location. Works a lot better. You want to find a socket that kind of fits into that. I like to put it where the bottom flange is on there for the first couple hits. You want to make sure your U-joint's all the way in your cap, otherwise you'll knock out your needle bearings in that too. We'll have to move it to the edge once you get it started though. Sometimes what I will do is I'll go put it in the vise and kind of squeeze it to get started. That works. Kind of not really a problem, but some of these longer shafts, it can be a little difficult. On this one, you need to make sure your U-joint is basically in your bottom one enough that the needle bearings are engaged. Now, you don't want to go too tight. But you got to get it in there far enough to get your snap rings. Usually like to find one groove and get one knocked in. I'll lightly tap the top so we can see the other groove. sure that's snapped in there. Now, it's a little snug. Squeezed it a little too tight, but we'll address that in a minute. It is if we can get that on there. It's rather interesting. It's the way I normally do it. Exact same size as that. Don't understand. It's not hitting the drive shaft, it's only hitting the U-joint. It's worse that way. So we're supposed to just be able to, just like that. This is all the exact same size. It's got this little edge on it though for some reason. It's not as thin as the other ones. But I mean, come on, it's a spicer joint and a spicer yoke. What is going on? I almost think it's close enough I can hammer it, but I don't really want to do that. Should have checked that first. I didn't think I needed to check that first. That's freaking crazy. I know I got it in the right way because the internal ring caps were with the little rubber piece. Just physically won't go in. Now it's stuck. And it put a little burr right there. Lovely. So much for that great plan. Maybe I need to put it in the yoke before I put it in the shaft. Never had to do that before. I keep trying it every way thinking it's going to work. It's clearly not going to work. It is really close, but it's not close enough. Do not understand. Basically need to grind that down a little bit. How bad of an idea that is. All I know is I'm not going back to Summit, so it's like 2.5 hours of my life I'll never get back. Look at that. Alright, let me show you what we did. So basically just ground that off a little bit because it was hitting this extra little bossed area, which is not on the old one, so I don't think that's going to affect any structural integrity because the other one didn't have it, so it's still stronger than before. At least that's my thinking anyways. I guess time will tell. And that right there is, I'm sure, both the right and the wrong way to change a U-joint. It's one of them things. There's a lot of opinions on that out there. This works for me. Like I said, a lot of times I'll use a vise, but if you ever have to do this on the side of the road, you typically don't have a vise. It's good to know and also practice from time to time with just a hammer and a socket and a pair of pliers. Keeps you sharp that way. Alright, let's go see if it fits in the truck. I want to just kind of double check my length measurement before I go changing the U-joint on the other end, just to be safe. Alright, to get this rag off of here without losing too much fluid. Oh, I'm gonna have to change that seal. It's cracked. That's okay. We'll do it later. All right. This yoke has a it's got a large spline in one spot. We're going to try to find that on the transmission. Seeing it. Well, let's just see where it fits. I guess it's not necessarily a large spot, it's just a double. The seal's not completely bad because it's got some suction on it. Oh man, that's a win right there. No modifications required. So that's the ride height. We got about 2.5 inches, which should be plenty. Ignore the spacer on the transmission mount. That's on the list to fix. Nice and tight down here. I think that's a hell of a win. So the drive shaft's in. I'm happy with it. Really relieved that I didn't have to have one made or have that one cut down. Basically cost $25 to put that drive shaft back in. $50 if you count the U-joint, the new U-joint for the rear axle, but other than that, that's a heck of a deal. I mean, bolt right in and go. I'm really surprised it was that easy. Most of the time it is not that easy. That's going to be it on this episode. Thanks for stopping by. Enjoyed having you. We'll see you on the next trip.